Captain Eridani Voss gripped the command console as the diplomatic vessel Tenacity shuddered under another blast from the Meridian warship. The holographic battle display flashed red as shield integrity dropped to 37%. Status report, she barked, brushing a lock of silver-streaked hair from her face. Lieutenant Aurelio Kaz, a tall man with amber eyes and intricate geometric tattoos covering his forearms, looked up from his station. "They've completely ignored our diplomatic frequencies. Captain, 3 more warships just dropped out of FTL on our flank. We're surrounded." "Damn it," Voss muttered. "This was supposed to be a peaceful first contact." The Meridians, an arthropod-like species with a highly advanced civilization, had seemed the perfect candidates for Galactic Union membership. That was before they'd opened fire without warning or provocation. "What about the emergency beacon?" Voss asked. Communications Officer Pelna Drath shook her head. "Signal away, but nearest Union vessel is 4 cycles out. We won't last that long." The ship rocked again. Sparks erupted from a nearby panel. "Shields at 19%, reported Kaz. "We can't take much more of this." Voss closed her eyes. Briefly. 76 crew members, her responsibility. All about to die because some trigger-happy alien commander didn't bother with basic diplomatic protocol. "Astrographer," she called out. "What's the nearest system?" Lieutenant Commander Navari Lin, whose luminous blue skin marked her Atelian heritage, consulted her charts. "Sol system, 3rd planet, local designation, Earth." "Humans?" Voss couldn't hide her surprise. "They're not even Union members. They're listed as Protectorate status," Lin confirmed. Non-technological integration. Humans were newcomers to the interstellar community. Only 30 Earth years into faster-than-light capability, they maintained a policy of gradual integration. While human ships occasionally ventured beyond their system, most citizens remained unaware of the Galactic Union's existence. "Captain," Kaz interjected urgently. "Meridian vessels charging particle cannons, firing solution locked. Decision time." Voss straightened her spine. "Plot emergency jump to Sol system," she ordered. "Alert Earth's orbital defense network. We're coming in hot with hostiles in pursuit." Lin looked alarmed. "Captain, that violates at least 7 Union protocols regarding protected species." "Note my override in the log," Voss said firmly. "I'm not letting this crew die to protect bureaucratic niceties." As the Tenacity's engines whined with the strain of preparing for an emergency jump, Voss opened a priority channel to Union Command. "This is Captain Eridani Voss of the diplomatic vessel Tenacity. We are under unprovoked attack by Meridian. Warships. Diplomatic channels ignored. Taking emergency measures to preserve crew. Be advised, we are retreating to Sol system with probable pursuit. I hereby invoke Article 17 of the Protected Species Accord and request immediate military assistance. Tenacity out." The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped. 3 days later, 6 Meridian warships arrived in Earth orbit, weapons hot and demanding the surrender of the Union criminals they'd been pursuing. They transmitted their ultimatum in all Earth languages simultaneously, bypassing governments to broadcast directly to civilian channels. Admiral Kasori of the Meridian Fleet was extremely confident. His species had never lost a military engagement in their 3,000-year history. He had no way of knowing he'd just made the worst mistake in Meridian history. Humanity, as the Galactic Union was well aware, had a perfect win record of their own. Admiral Lorelei Markov of the United Earth Defense Force stood in the orbital command station, studying the alien warships with cold calculation. At 63, she was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion and the Jovian Crisis, conflicts that had forged humanity's first spaceborne military. 6 vessels, she noted. Advanced propulsion, energy-based weapons, sophisticated shielding. Her XO, Commander Darius Phoenix, nodded grimly. The diplomatic ship they were chasing managed to transmit technical data before it was forced to make emergency landing in the Pacific. Their shields are impressive, but the aliens' targeting systems seem optimized for larger, slower vessels. "And their ultimatum?" Markov asked. demanding we hand over the diplomats. They've given us 8 hours before they commence planetary pacification. Whatever that means. Markov's lips thinned. I think we can guess. Earth's leaders were in emergency session, but Markov already knew what their decision would be. Humanity didn't surrender its guests. Not ever. Not since the Antarctic Research Station massacre of 2079, when an isolated team of scientists had given up 3 political refugees to their pursuers, only to watch them be executed on the ice. The resulting public outcry had prompted the first Unified Earth Law, the Protection of Guests Act. "Admiral," Phoenix said quietly, "we're outgunned." In conventional terms, yes. Markov turned to face the tactical display. But they don't know what they're dealing with. "Prepare Operation Hornet's Nest." Phoenix's eyes widened. "That's still experimental tech." "Not anymore." Markov activated the command channel. "All stations. This is Admiral Markov. We have hostile forces threatening Earth. Initiate Defense Protocol Zeta." Across Earth's orbit, seemingly innocent satellites and maintenance platforms began transforming. Solar panels retracted, revealing weapon ports. Debris collection units deployed swarms of micromissiles. Civilian communication arrays pivoted to focus jamming beams. The Meridian ships didn't react. Why would they? Their scans showed only a handful of primitive military vessels and standard orbital infrastructure. Nothing that could threaten their advanced warships. They didn't understand that humans had evolved in an environment of constant conflict. They didn't know that Earth's military doctrine had been built around asymmetric warfare since the early 21st century. They couldn't conceive that humanity had designed its entire orbital infrastructure with dual-purpose functionality from the very beginning. "Quantum entanglement communications active," reported Phoenix. "All platforms synchronized." "Execute. Phase 1, ordered Markov. Thousands of microsatellites, each no larger than a coffee can, detached from their host platforms and accelerated toward the Meridian vessels. Simultaneously, every transmission antenna in Earth orbit began broadcasting on the frequencies the Tenacity had identified as the Meridian's communication bands. Aboard the Meridian flagship, Admiral Kasori was growing impatient. These primitives were taking too long to recognize their inevitable defeat. Perhaps a demonstration was in order. "Target their largest orbital station," he ordered. "Low power, just enough to—" His tactical officer chittered in alarm. "Communications being jammed. Unknown devices approaching. Thousands of them." "Destroy them," Kasori ordered dismissively. The Meridian ships fired, their energy weapons vaporizing hundreds of the approaching microsatellites. But there were thousands more, and they were moving erratically, making targeting difficult. When the first wave reached the Meridian ships, they didn't explode. They attached, and Earth's true defense grid revealed itself. Admiral Kasori's mandibles clicked in agitation as his flagship systems began failing one by one. The primitive satellites had somehow penetrated their shields, something that should have been impossible. "Report!" he demanded. "Unknown technology," his science officer responded. "The devices are drawing power from our own shields and using it to generate localized field disruptions. Our weapons are offline." This was unprecedented. The Meridians had conquered 7 star systems. Their technology was superior to most Galactic Union species. These humans were barely spacefaring, yet somehow they had developed countermeasures that rendered Meridian warships impotent. On Earth, in a secured bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Imara Okafor addressed a global audience. "Citizens of Earth, as you're aware, alien vessels have entered our orbit with hostile intent. They pursue diplomatic refugees who sought our protection. Let me be absolutely clear. Earth will not surrender those under our protection. We have activated our orbital defense grid and contained the immediate threat. But this unprovoked aggression requires a more definitive response." She paused, her expression resolute. Therefore, I have authorized Operation Swift Response. May our visitors learn quickly what others before them have discovered. Earth stands united against threats. We will defend ourselves with every measure at our disposal. In high orbit, Admiral Markov watched as the neutralized Meridian ships drifted helplessly. The microsatellites, officially designated electromagnetic disruption devices, had performed. Even better than expected, leaching energy from the alien shields and redirecting it to create localized interference fields. Phase 1 complete, Phoenix reported. All enemy vessels neutralized. No casualties on either side. Markov nodded approvingly. Begin Phase 2. I want boarding teams ready in 15 minutes. Admiral, Communications Officer Reza Jalali interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from a new contact, Galactic Union Identification. A massive ship had just emerged from FTL at the edge of the system, easily 3 times the size of the largest Meridian vessel. The view screen activated, revealing a tall, elegant being with crystalline features that caught the light in prismatic patterns. I am High Arbiter Tessera of the Galactic Union Security Council, the being announced. We received Captain Voss's emergency transmission and came as quickly as possible. I see that our assistance may be unnecessary. Markov straightened. This is Admiral Markov of the United Earth Defense Force. The situation is under control. The aggressor's ships have been neutralized without casualties. The crystalline being's facets shifted in what might have been surprise. Neutralized? How? Meridian warships are among the most advanced in the quadrant. We have our methods, Markov replied simply. We're preparing to board their vessels now. Indeed, Tessera seemed to study something off-screen. Most fascinating. Admiral, on behalf of the Security Council, I extend our apologies for this violation of your protected status. The Meridians will face severe sanctions for their actions. Markov's expression hardened. With respect, Arbiter, we'll determine our own response to those who threaten our planet. The Arbiter's crystalline form shimmered, perhaps the equivalent of raised eyebrows. Admiral, while we respect Earth's sovereignty, I must caution against any action that might escalate. The time for caution, Markov interrupted, was before alien warships threatened global bombardment. We will board those ships. We will secure their technology and data, and we will ensure they never threaten Earth again. A tense silence followed. Finally, the Arbiter nodded. I request permission to send observers to document the proceedings. The Security Council will want a full accounting. Granted, Markov replied. But they will follow our protocols. As the transmission ended, Phoenix approached. Do you think the Union will intervene if we push too hard? Markov watched as Earth's newly revealed military shuttles approached the disabled Meridian ships. No, she said confidently. They're more curious than concerned. They want to see what we'll do next. Specialist Riker Njoro moved through the alien vessel in perfect synchronization with his squad. Their mag boots made soft clicking sounds against the metallic floor as they advanced, pulse rifles at the ready. Clear! Murmured Corporal Vega through the tactical net. Clear! Echoed Lieutenant Joe from another corridor. The Meridian ship was eerily silent. Emergency lighting cast blue-green illumination across organic-looking control interfaces. The air carried a tang of ozone and something else, a musty, almost spicy scent. Life signs ahead, warned Sergeant Indra Sen, their sensor specialist. 23 signatures in what appears to be the command center. Riker adjusted his grip on his weapon. First contact with a hostile alien species. Not how he'd imagined this moment when he joined the UEDF's elite orbital response team. Lieutenant Joe's voice came through crisp and professional. Remember protocol. Non-lethal measures unless directly threatened. We're here to secure the ship and establish control, not to start a massacre. The squad acknowledged with green status lights on the shared neural display. As they approached the sealed command center, Zhou addressed the ship's translation system they'd managed to access. "Attention, Meridian crew. This is Lieutenant Zhou of the United Earth Defense Force. Your ships have been disabled. We are boarding to take command. Surrender peacefully, and you will be treated according to interstellar humanitarian conventions." After a moment, the door hissed open. Inside, a dozen Meridians stood in defensive postures. Their exoskeletons gleamed under the emergency lighting, compound eyes reflecting the humans' helmet lamps in fractured patterns. They were larger than humans, most standing over 2 meters tall, with 4 arms and backward-jointed legs. One stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what the translation software interpreted as formal speech. "I am Sub-Commander Krell. Admiral Kasori demands to speak with your leaders immediately." Zhu remained calm. "The Admiral is no longer in command of this vessel. Our leaders will determine when and if communication is appropriate." The Meridian's secondary arms twitched toward what was almost certainly a weapon. In an instant, 3 non-lethal suppression rounds struck the alien, delivering a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse that sent the sub-commander collapsing to the deck, limbs twitching. "Anyone else feeling uncooperative?" Zhou asked pleasantly. The remaining Meridians raised their upper limbs in a universal gesture of surrender. Aboard the Union observer vessel, High Arbiter Tessera watched the boarding operations with growing astonishment. They disabled and boarded 6 advanced warships in under 40 minutes, she noted to her aide. "No casualties, minimal damage to the vessels themselves." "Impossible," the aide muttered. "The Meridians have conquered multiple systems. Their combat prowess is legendary. And yet..." Tessera gestured to the monitoring feeds. "These protected primitives neutralized them without breaking a sweat." "How could we have misjudged their capabilities so severely?" the aide wondered. Tessera's crystalline form shifted thoughtfully. "We didn't misjudge. They concealed. Look at their orbital infrastructure. Everything serves dual purposes. Their entire civilization is built on preparedness. But why maintain protected status if they're clearly capable of joining the galactic community?" "An excellent question," Tessera murmured. "One I intend to ask their leaders directly." On Earth's surface, in the Strategic Command Center, President Okafor received the update with satisfaction. "All 6 vessels secured," General Lakshmi reported. "Alien crews contained. Minimal resistance. 0 casualties on either side." "And the Galactic Union observers?" Okafor asked, keeping their distance but monitoring closely. "They seem impressed." "As they should be," Okafor replied. "What's the status of the diplomatic vessel that sought our protection?" "The Tenacity is secure. Captain Voss and her crew have been treated for minor injuries. She's requested a meeting." Okafor nodded. "Arrange it immediately. I want to know exactly what we've stepped into." Captain Eridani Voss had never expected to stand in the Oval Office of the White House, yet here she was, facing the leader of a planet that, according to Union records, shouldn't have been able to repel even 1 Meridian warship, let alone 6. "Madam President," she began carefully, "I must express my deepest gratitude for your protection, though I regret bringing this conflict to your doorstep." President Okafor's expression remained neutral. "Your distress call mentioned unprovoked aggression. I'd like details, Captain." Voss explained the diplomatic mission gone wrong, how the Meridians had attacked without warning or provocation, ignoring all attempts at communication. "They're expansionists," she concluded. "The Union had hoped to bring them into the fold peacefully, but they clearly had other ideas." "And the Union?" Okafor asked. "What's their position now that the Meridians have violated what you call our protected status?" "High Arbiter Tessera represents the Security Council," Voss explained. "Their presence suggests the Union takes this violation extremely seriously. Yet, they arrived after we handled the situation ourselves. Voss hesitated. The Union underestimated your capabilities, as did I. A ghost of a smile crossed Okafor's face. That was by design, Captain. We've known about the wider galactic community for decades, long before official first contact. Voss couldn't hide her surprise. How? We intercepted communications. We recovered crashed scout ships. We pieced things together. Okafor leaned forward, and we decided to let the galaxy believe we were less advanced than we actually are. But why? Voss asked, genuinely confused. Union membership offers protections, technology sharing, economic benefits, and obligations, Okafor countered. Restrictions, cultural assimilation pressures. We've studied Earth history, Captain. When technologically advanced societies encounter less advanced ones, the results are rarely beneficial for the latter. The Union isn't like that, Voss protested. Perhaps not intentionally, but we chose to develop on our own terms, at our own pace. Okafor's expression hardened slightly. And today's events have validated that choice. A knock at the door interrupted them. General Lakshmi entered with a tablet. Madam President, High Arbiter Tessera requests an audience, and we've translated more of the Myridian database. It seems their attack wasn't random. They specifically targeted the Tenacity after learning it was en route to discuss Union membership with the Fortari Alliance. The Fortari? Voss exclaimed. They're direct competitors with the Meridians for resources in the Cygnus arm. Okafor processed this information. So the attack was politically motivated. They wanted to prevent the alliance. Yes, Lakshmi confirmed. And there's more. The Meridians have been planning military actions against 3 other Union Protectorate worlds. They've been systematically probing for weaknesses in the Union's defense network. They're testing boundaries, Okafor concluded. Starting with what they perceived as softer targets, like Earth, Voss added grimly. A miscalculation on their part. Okafor stood. General, prepare a data package from the Meridian ships for the Union Security Council. Captain Voss, you'll accompany me to meet with the High Arbiter. I believe Earth's relationship with the Galactic Union is about to change significantly. In the diplomatic reception room 30 minutes later, High Arbiter Tessera's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with barely contained curiosity. President Okafor, she began formally, your handling of the Meridian incursion was unprecedented. The Union Security Council is most interested in understanding how a protected world managed to neutralize 6 advanced warships with technology that, according to our records, you shouldn't possess. Perhaps, Okafor suggested mildly, your records are incomplete. Evidently. Tessera's tone carried a hint of disapproval. Protected status requires full disclosure of technological capabilities. A status we never requested, Okafor pointed out. It was assigned to us. The Arbiter's crystalline features shifted in what might have been consternation. Nevertheless, the situation has changed. The Meridian aggression against both your world and a Union diplomatic vessel cannot go unanswered. We agree, said Okafor, which is why we're prepared to share what we've discovered in their databases. The Galactic Union Security Council chamber fell silent as the evidence presented by Earth's representatives concluded. The holographic display showed incontrovertible proof. The Meridian Empire had been systematically preparing for war against the Union, using the attack on the Tenacity as a test of response times and capabilities. High Counselor Nix, an ancient entity composed of swirling dark matter, spoke first. This changes everything. The Meridians have violated 13 separate provisions of the Union Charter and would have launched more aggressive actions, added President Okafor, had their initial foray been successful. Instead, they made a critical error. Yes, rumbled Counselor Dresnik, a massive reptilian being. They attacked the one protected world capable of stopping them. Most convenient. The implied accusation hung in the air. Admiral Markov stepped Forward. If you're suggesting Earth engineered this situation, Counselor, you're mistaken. We were as surprised by the Meridian attack as anyone, yet remarkably prepared to counter it, Dresnik observed. We're always prepared, Markov replied simply. It's who we are. High Arbiter Tessera intervened. The question remains, why conceal your true capabilities from the Union? Why maintain protected status when you clearly qualify for full membership? President Okafor met the crystalline being's gaze steadily. Because observation works both ways, Arbiter. For decades, we've watched the Union. We've studied how you operate, how you resolve conflicts, how you treat newer members. She gestured to the chamber around them. You build consensus through diplomacy, a commendable approach. But you lack something we humans have developed through millennia of conflict, the ability to act decisively when threatened. You speak of your military prowess, Counselor Nix noted, swirling patterns intensifying. Yet you used non-lethal methods against the Meridians. Curious. Strength isn't measured by body count, Markov responded. It's measured by achieving objectives while maintaining moral principles. We could have destroyed those ships. We chose not to. Captain Voss, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Council members, when I sought refuge in the Sol system, I expected Earth's defenses to buy us time until Union forces arrived. I never imagined they would resolve the situation entirely on their own. My crew and I owe them our lives. She turned to face Okafor and Markov. But what happens now? The Meridians will retaliate once they learn their fleet has been captured. Let them, Markov said calmly. Earth stands ready? Perhaps, Tessera interjected. That won't be necessary. All eyes turned to the Arbiter. The evidence presented today warrants the strongest possible response. I propose immediate sanctions against the Meridian Empire, coupled with a security pact with Earth. Tessera's crystalline form caught the light as she turned to Okafor. Not as a protected world, but as a full security partner, murmurs rippled through the council chamber. You wish to militarize the Union? Asked Dresnik, clearly alarmed. I wish to protect it, Tessera corrected. For too long, we've relied on diplomatic pressure alone. The Meridians calculated they could act with impunity because our response would be slow and measured. They weren't wrong. She gestured toward the Earth delegation. But they didn't account for humanity. A species that combines tactical brilliance with ethical restraint is precisely what the Union's security apparatus has lacked. President Okafor considered the proposal thoughtfully. Earth has no interest in becoming the Union's military arm. But we are willing to share defensive technologies and training under the right conditions. Which are? Nix inquired. Autonomy, recognition of Earth's sovereign space, and a guarantee that our cultural development remains our own. High Counselor Nix's swirling form seemed to stabilize as they reached a decision. A formal vote will be required, but speaking for myself, the Union would be foolish to reject such an arrangement. 3 days later, as the newly formed Earth-Union Security Compact was being finalized, Admiral Kasori was brought before President Okafor and the Union representatives. The Meridian commander's compound eyes reflected his confusion at finding himself facing the leader of the planet he'd threatened to bombard rather than a military tribunal. You're being released to return to your government, Okafor informed him, with a message. Kasori's mandibles clicked in surprise. Released? Not executed or imprisoned? That's not how we operate, Markov said from beside Okafor. But make no mistake, your ships remain in our possession. Your weapons technology is being analyzed. Your military databases have been thoroughly mined for intelligence. And, added High Arbiter Tessera, the Union now stands with Earth in a mutual defense agreement. Any further aggression against Union worlds will trigger an immediate response. Kasori's exoskeleton seemed to pale. The High Command will never accept such terms. Then they'll suffer the consequences, Okafor said simply. The choice is theirs. But before they decide, they should understand one thing very clearly. She leaned forward, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable note of steel. Throughout our history, humans have fought countless wars amongst ourselves. We've perfected the art of conflict, then perfected the art of ending conflict. When provoked, we respond with overwhelming force, but we always prefer peace. Always. Remember that when you report back. As Kasori was escorted away, Captain Voss approached Okafor and Markov. You know, she said thoughtfully, there's an old saying in the Union about species you should never provoke. The Vorlani fight until death. The Tressians never forget an insult. But humans fight until victory, then offer you a hand, up. Markov smiled slightly. Your old saying got it mostly right, except we don't just offer a hand up, we make sure you understand exactly why you fell in the first place. Okafor nodded in agreement. So, the next time you'll think twice before picking a fight with the only species in the galaxy with a perfect win record.